In my 25 years of being chronically homeless, I've had the chance to sit there and observe something that I think is what not only makes people homeless, but keeps them homeless and makes their homeless experience much more miserable than it should. And this flaw is called attachment. Most people don't really think about it because they're too busy surviving or other things that are going on. So, what I'm going to do today is give you a generalization of what attachment is using examples. And then I'm going to share with you the negative consequences and then the possibility of things that you can do that will help you relieve your attachment to certain things so that you are able to move on much quicker. I had to deal with attachment on my own level. We all have to. It's part of being homeless. And for me, it was attachment to wanting a roof over my head and wanting, certain amenities in life because I wanted to be rich like the rich people. I wanted to have that easy life. I wanted to have my private island and my private jet and all that cool stuff. But, since then I've learned that that's really not worth anything. But the thing is we are attached to outcomes. We are attached to lifestyles. We are attached to material things. We are attached to a lot of things and we don't even realize our attachment to it because until it goes away, you don't realize like how much of an impact it was. For example, you're in a relationship and you didn't realize how used to having your partner make your coffee was in the morning until they were no longer there to make your coffee. And then you're like, oh, wait, oh, yeah, that's something that I missed. And so therefore you kind of you could either take that as, okay, something I missed, or it could be something that is more attached, like, oh, well, I want to have this person back because I miss all of those small little things that they used to do for me, regardless of what brought them to that point to begin with. And sometimes we're all guilty of that. One of the things that I was attached to of a material and sentimental value, though, was my mom made both my sister and I, she crocheted blankets. These things were a California king is still too small for how big this blanket was. My mom spent a year crocheting and she loved to crochet. And so she gave my sister the Christmas color one and me the Thanksgiving color one, which is like browns and yellows and stuff like that. I got to, I carried that thing around with me. And sometimes I would find places when I know I was going to go homeless, I'd find places to stash it, whether, hey, mom, can you hold on to this blanket for me? Or, hey, I'm going to come back for this blanket in about this many months. Or at least, give you an update. Will you hold on to this? It's sentimental value. Most people are like, yeah, sure, I'll hold on to it because it's not going to take up too much room or anything else like that, even though this thing was freaking huge. Okay. But the thing is I was attached to it. Now, once I lost it, because I had kind of gotten over attachment to begin with, it wasn't as devastating, but that was something that was of sentimental value to me as an individual. Attachment is your inability to let things go. And when you refuse to let these things go, what happens is you create a sense of sadness, a sense of desperation. You start doing things that you would not normally do. For example, I had an incident with an individual where some money was supposed to be sent, and then they told me that not all of it was sent. And so therefore I had to operate differently. Well, that person, because they were afraid of losing stuff that they probably will never be able to go back for to begin with, because of their attachment, and at such a low threshold, this individual was willing to compromise their integrity. And like, how many bridges does that burn? How many relationships does that end? What type of negative effects is a breach of trust going to have within your whole community, within your ecosystem that you have as your social structure and your social safety net? Because if you don't realize that everybody around you is your social structure and your social safety net, you really won't understand like really what it is being homeless. Because I think this is another thing that you realize, that I will do another topic another day, is just the realization of the social network. When it comes to attachment, it has a way to be disruptive, especially if you're not able to relinquish that attachment. There's a lot of things, like I'm attached to my dog. If something happens to my dog, I'm going to be devastated. Yes, there is going to be that moment of attachment because I lost something that was very near and dear to me, and I have a relationship with my dog. Versus, I have this cup right here, and this cup is just, I got to have it because it's my stuff and I've worked hard to accumulate all of this stuff. And so therefore I cannot lose it. Okay. There's a difference in attachment, and relationship attachment is important because that is what forms a bond. But when you are attached to things like this versus things like between me and my dog, your moral compass is going to sway. Okay. So how do you relinquish your attachment? How do you get used to not being attached? And sometimes it just takes losing everything and for you to just sit there and go, it's gone. What is here today is going to be gone tomorrow. This is a nice motto that I live by. This trailer, it is great. It is fantastic. But at any day, if something were to go sideways, I could lose this trailer. I could lose this land. There is until I own it outright, and there's no way to lose it unless, like a tornado or something else like that comes through here. There is always an opportunity to lose it. So if you come from and think of things in that manner, what will happen is it will be a personality change, because when you stop being attached to things, it helps you relinquish the emotion from the whole instance, because emotions are temporary, sometimes red flags, sometimes green flags, sometimes yellow flags to let you know that something is wrong. But it does not mean that whatever that emotional response was fully correct and complete, because there was you're acting on emotion because you feel like you've been wronged in some way, form, or fashion. And when you stop and you realize that it's an emotion and you can detach yourself, so therefore there's another form of attachment, detach yourself from the situation and ask questions for clarification, then all of a sudden your interactions and the way in which you interact with people will be much different, because this will open up the door not only to communication, but it will also open up the door for you to be able to withdraw from the world. As I hear a lot of Christians say, be in the world, not of the world. Well, this is how you be in the world, but not of the world. What it's saying is that you do not want to be, you don't want to be attached to everything, because you're here today, you're gone tomorrow. Can you take any of this with you? No. What can you leave behind? The impact that you made in the relationships that you had with those people. But if you're too busy burning those relationships over something like this, then you're going to just be destructive, and you're going to end up out on the streets. This is a toxic personality trait if you are not aware and understand that there are certain instances, just like everything else. There's an instance in which you want to use a pew-pew, and then there's an instance in which you want to use some other means. It just depends upon the situation. And being able to have more of a control and awareness of what's going on around you without being emotional, because one of the first things you hear preppers talk about, especially those who have been in extreme situations, is that the guy who remains calmest is the guy who wins. So if you don't know how to keep yourself on a balance and not allow your emotions and your attachment to certain outcomes and your attachment to certain lifestyles and your attachment to all these different things, then you're going to allow those emotional responses to take over. And when they take over, they can burn bridges, they can be destructive. Sometimes they can be positive, but it just depends upon the situation. Whereas if you are able to remove attachment, and especially to the situation, to your emotion, to what's going on. Okay, this is how I interpret this. Is this what you really mean? Or is this, and am I doing it in a because I'm still emotional? Or am I calm enough to sit there and go, hey, man, this is what you said. This is what I understood it to mean. Is this what you mean? And if they say yes or no, or give you further clarification, you find out that there's no reason to be mad, because those that are supposed to care about you should have no ill will towards you. So why would you get mad at them for doing something to you? Okay, so this is my word of wisdom and my word of advice. Actually, let me ask you guys this question. If you made it this far, that means you're probably going to be one of the few super, what I like to call super fans. What is it that would make this worth coming over to Patreon for you? What would you like to know, whether it's behind the scenes, things that I'm doing, a more in-depth talk, a personalized live stream? What is it that you would find value in to come over and join my community over on Patreon. Let me know that down in the comments in the description. I'd very much appreciate it. Thanks for being here. I hope to see you in the next video.